to you all, and welcome to the first of our October series of recipes. Now, this is a real mixed bag of things this month. The common thing about all 4 recipes is that they're all things I enjoy cooking, and more importantly, they're things I enjoy eating. So last month I was on holiday in the Isles of Scilly off the tip of Cornwall. So it's very appropriate that today I'm doing a dish from that part of England. It was first mentioned in the 13th century, albeit the reference there was to Norfolk, but since about the 15th century it's become very much associated with Cornwall and the West Country, mentioned by the Tudors and most notably probably in the diaries of Samuel Pepys. So today I'm going to make Cornish pasties. So what do we need? Well, we need onion, potato, swede or turnip as it's referred to in that part of England. We need some beef, we need some butter, some fat. I'm using beef dripping, but you can use lard, you can use shortening, some strong bread flour, some cream, a little bit of cream, a little bit of a beef stock cube, an egg for glazing later on, a dash of Worcester sauce, always get Worcester sauce in, and salt and pepper. So there we are. Let's see what equipment we need. So we need a chopping board, a sharp knife, a bowl, a wooden spoon, a pastry brush, a side plate or bowl to act as a template for cutting out the pastry, a baking tray and some baking paper. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make our pastry. And I've got here 250 grams. I'm using bread flour rather than normal flour, so a stronger flour to hold the pasty together when we make it. And I've added half a teaspoon of salt to the flour mix. And now I'm going to add my butter and my beef fat. As I say, you can use lard or you can use shortening, margarine or whatever, but very cold, straight out of the fridge. So I've got my fat and my flour, and I'm basically just using my fingertips. I'm going to rub the fat into the flour so that eventually it'll look a bit like sort of rough breadcrumbs. Takes about 5 minutes or so. So I'll see you all in a few minutes. Okay, so now hopefully you can see it's like fine breadcrumbs. So what I'm going to do now is add a little water. I've got about 80 millilitres here, but I'm not going to add it all at once. I'll add about half of it. And then use my hands, my fingers, to make the pastry into a ball. You don't want to add it all because every flour is a bit different. Some absorb faster than others. In fact, this seems to be absorbing fairly quickly, so I don't think I'm going to need all of my water. So I've probably added about 50 millilitres to this mix. Don't think I'm going to need any more than that. Just now, as you can see, it's now come into a ball, and pretty much the rest of the bowl is clean. The sides are clean. It's in a ball. So what I'm going to do now is just put a bit of flour on the board. And give it a bit of a knead. It's not like bread, you don't need to do it for ages, but just to stretch the starch out a little bit, get it to all bind together and hold together nice and firmly. Just for a couple of minutes. Like that. That'll do. And now we've got our ball of pastry, and we're going to pop that in a plastic bag and put it in the fridge now for about an hour to chill. And while that's chilling, we'll move on to the filling. And our ingredients today 250 grams of strong bread flour, 60 grams of cold butter cubed, 60 grams of cold lard or shortening cubed, around 50 to 80 millilitres of cold water, 200 grams of beef steak chopped, 150 grams of potato sliced and diced, 75 grams of Swedes similarly sliced and diced, 75 grams of onion chopped, half a beef stock cube, a teaspoon of cream, clotted ideally, but if you can't get it then table cream is fine, a teaspoon of Worcester sauce, and generous amounts of salt and pepper. Okay, so now to make the filling to put inside the pasty. So we start with our chopped beef. Now the traditional Cornish pasty is made with the cut called skirt, which is low in fat but from the underside, and it's not the most expensive. It's lean, but it's not so soft. I'm using something a bit softer because skirt is not a cut that they have in Spain, but it'll be fine. And then I'm going to add my onion and my Swede and my potato. Give them a good stir around. I'll get him mixed up, and now I'm going to add, partly because of the cut of meat, I want to give it a bit more flavour and a bit more juice. I'm going to use my ingredients, which aren't part of a traditional Cornish pasty, but believe me, they work. And that's a teaspoon of Worcester sauce. And then I'm going to use just half a stock cube, half a beef stock cube, just broken up, and a little dash of cream, again just a spoonful's worth. And then we're going to add our salt and pepper, and this is where we need to be quite generous because there's no other seasoning really apart from salt and pepper. So we've got pretty much a teaspoon of salt and similar of pepper. So don't skimp on the pepper because that's just the biggest flavour kick in the dish. So again, a teaspoon of ground black pepper, and then we just mix it all up. Some people, when they make a Cornish pasty, keep these ingredients separate and layer them. So they put the onion on the bottom and then the potato and the Swede and the meat on top. But I prefer mine all mixed up. So that's pretty much it. That's our pasty filling. So we'll put that in the fridge now and leave that until the pastry is ready to roll. And then we'll come back and assemble it all. Okay, so we've got our pastry out of the fridge now. As I said, these ingredients should be enough for about 3 good sized pasties, by which I mean sort of 8-inch or 20 centimetre diameter. So what I'm going to do, I'll just split my pastry into 2 pieces for now, just to make it easier to manage. And I'm going to put some flour on my board. And we'll get one of the balls, flatten it down a little, and then start rolling it out into something approximating a circle. Turn it over every now and again to stop it sticking, and you're trying to get it down to roughly about 3mm thickness. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit more, but not much less, because otherwise the risk is it'll all fall apart when you try to fill it and bake it. So that's all looking good. So we'll roll that out like that. And then we basically, we get our side plates here, or bowl I've used, and we just place that on there like that, and cut round it with a sharp knife. There we have our first pastry base. I'll do the same with the other two, and then we'll move on to filling them. Okay, so the first thing we're going to just do is get some of our egg glaze and just dab round the edges a little bit, so that when we fold it over, it'll all stick together and hold together nicely. And then we take a dollop of our filling, as much as you can reasonably fit in. The more you can fit in, the better, but obviously if you overfill it, you may struggle to close your pasty at the end. That looks a little bit more potato and onion. Okay, so we now just fold that over like that and press down so that we've got enough of an edge here to play with to do our crimping. Now, crimping, basically you get your thumb and move along the side like this and turn it over. And there, as you can see, we have one crimped pasty ready to go either into the oven or into the freezer. Because if you're going to freeze it, now is a good time. Either way, put some egg glaze on it, and then we'll put that onto our baking tray, or in an oven, in a medium oven, probably for about an hour, until it's going nice and golden on top. Fingers crossed.
I've stood on Cape Cornwall in the sun's evening glow, on June Hill at Newlyn,